Ajax was, without a doubt, the character who made us feel the most sympathy and even frustration in the second season of Wednesday. And that's largely because of how Enid treated him. This season gave us more time with Ajax, allowing us to explore his personality, gentle, quirky, and genuinely charming, which made it all the more painful to watch how things unfolded for him. From the very beginning, the connection between Enid and Ajax was sweet and sincere. Enid clearly liked him, showing interest and excitement whenever they were together, and Ajax, always the kind and romantic type, reciprocated those feelings. They were cute, they had chemistry, and it genuinely felt like something special was growing between them. But everything changed when Enid finally transformed into a werewolf. That moment redefined her. For the first time, she felt like she belonged part of a pack, a community, something she had longed for. It filled a deep emotional void tied to her fear of being alone. And that's when Bruno entered the picture, another werewolf, also the last in his line to transform. That shared experience created a powerful connection between them. Enid saw in Bruno someone who truly understood what she had been through in a way Ajax never could. And here's the thing. The issue wasn't Enid developing feelings for someone else. Characters grow, relationships evolve. That's all part of a good story. The real problem was how she handled Ajax. He remained his usual caring, sweet self, trying to connect, trying to talk while she simply pulled away without explanation. Enid wasn't honest. She didn't have the courage to say what was going on, and that silence ended up hurting Ajax even more. He had to piece everything together on his own. That lack of communication, of basic respect, is what made the whole situation so upsetting. Watching Ajax try to reach out, only to be left in the dark, was heartbreaking, and many fans noticed how out of character this felt for Enid, the same Enid who, in Season 1, was so open, emotional, and kind. Ajax deserved better. He deserved a conversation, some closure, or at least a moment of honesty. That's why it was so easy to feel bad for him, because in the end, he was just a guy who cared deeply for someone, and was left wondering why it all fell apart. This is a very common pattern in American productions. Teenage couples rarely go through a stable relationship without some external obstacle, usually in the form of another person or a potential betrayal. Most romantic conflicts revolve around a third party, rather than the character's own emotional growth or internal struggles. Relationships that develop naturally, without outside interference, are almost a rarity in this kind of narrative. In Enid's case, it's clear that this arc was designed as part of her personal growth. She's always had a deep fear of being alone, and often sought comfort in romantic relationships as a way to feel connected and supported. Her feelings were real, of course, but they were also tied to a sense of emotional vulnerability. In that sense, her romances reflected a deeper journey of self-discovery. Still, even taking that into account, it's hard to ignore the fact that a conversation with Ajax was absolutely necessary. He was the one who had to go after her, to take initiative, because otherwise, things would have stayed unresolved. Enid would have simply moved on with Bruno, while Ajax, with his feelings clearly visible on screen, would be left without any kind of explanation. The lack of direct communication, of emotional closure, made the situation harder to watch and highlighted that, even though Enid's arc was centered on her personal evolution, Ajax was the one who ended up emotionally hurt in the process. Despite all the emotional tension between Ajax and Enid, one of the most compelling things about his character this season on Wednesday was finally seeing his powers in action. As a Gorgon, Ajax has a unique ability in the series, but in Season 1, we barely saw his full head, and there's a clear reason for that. The movement of the snakes requires CGI, which makes it an expensive effect to produce. With the show's massive success, it's obvious the budget was increased, and that investment is noticeable not just in Ajax's design, but also in how the Hyde monster was portrayed. In Season 1, Hyde mostly appeared in the shadows. This time, the visual presence was much stronger. With more screen time, Ajax proved his powers are far from useless. Unlike traditional mythology like the story of Medusa, where victims are turned to stone permanently, Wednesday presents a different take. The petrification effect caused by Gorgons in this universe is temporary, which adds a strategic layer to how the ability can be used. That change makes a huge difference. Ajax's power becomes versatile, useful, and even deadly, depending on the situation. A great example is the scene where Principal Weems is petrified, and when the effect wears off, she just happens to be standing directly under a falling chandelier, a fatal moment. In that context, Ajax's ability didn't just stun someone, it indirectly led to a character's death. It's a great example of how a power that might seem limited on paper can have real impact when used at the right time. One storyline with a lot of potential for future seasons of Wednesday is the relationship between Ajax and Bianca. With Xavier's departure, Ajax lost a close friend, and Bianca was left without a possible romantic interest, possible because, although they had a history, their relationship had already ended. That shift opened the door for more interaction between Ajax and Bianca, and the result was surprisingly compelling. It was great to see Ajax showing genuine concern for Bianca, especially during her arc involving her mother, Principal Weems, and the conflict with the Sirens. Their connection felt honest and meaningful, and many viewers even picked up on a bit of romantic tension between them. There's definitely chemistry there. It's still unclear whether the writers will explore a romantic angle between the two, but it would make sense. Enid has already made it clear she's no longer interested in being with Ajax, so seeing him connect with someone who truly understands him like Bianca could be a natural next step. In fact, some fans were hoping for that pairing, not just because they're compatible, but as a kind of emotional payback, so Enid could feel what Ajax felt. Still, it was actually more satisfying to see the show take a different route, letting Ajax and Bianca acknowledge their bond and choose friendship instead. It felt mature, honest, and necessary for both of them. What really stands out now is the need for Ajax to have a bigger role. In Season 1, he was mostly seen as Enid's love interest. Even though he had a few individual moments, his character was largely limited to that role. It would be far more interesting to give him more depth to explore his insecurities, his abilities, and his personal growth. He could even become a key ally to Wednesday, especially if he plays a part in helping her track down Enid in her new werewolf form. That would open up a whole new arc involving loyalty, strategy, and personal evolution.